his parents purchased the home in 1918. He would have been, 8 years old at the time. So I assume, his life began about down here at that time,
A home on Balboa Island Peninsula?
Yeah, right here.
Right here.
Yeah, right here on the island. And so he kind of grew up in the area, and I'm a little vague about a lot of it because I wasn't obviously here. But one of the interesting points was he became a lifeguard in Corona del Mar. And I'm not even sure about the era, probably 22 or something like that. And one of the interesting things, and this is kind of bring this up, is there was a big boat accident, and Duke Kahanamoku happened to be here, and he brought surfing to California about that time. Before the jetties were built, it was kind of a washout there, and there was huge waves occasionally when there were storms. So this fishing boat, I think it was a fishing boat, got involved in an accident. Several people were in the water. The Duke supposedly rescued 6 or 7 of them himself, and my mom told me that my dad rescued several of them at the time. He didn't make the newspapers, Duke did, and he obviously he's a very famous guy. So that was the beginning of the era, I guess you might call it.
Well, that accident and that boat is, in fact,
that's
the
it.
surf exhibit.
That's it right there. Yeah.
And not everyone did make it, survived it.
No, several people lost their lives. Yeah. So my adventure began in 1948, maybe something like that, with a trip to Hawaii with my dad and my grandparents. And I was a little beach rat. I was raised here on the island. I lived here from, I don't say I was born here because I was born in a hospital in Orange, but I lived here since my birth. And so I was a little beach rat. Nobody wore shoes, and we were just little kids running around like crazy. Everybody knew everybody. You couldn't get in too much trouble because everybody knew who you were. And I'll back up just a little bit on the story. One of the interesting things was there was a grammar school on the little island, and I'm not sure what grades, but let's just say 2nd, 3rd, and 4th possibly. And so that's where I went to school. Nobody wore shoes. We walked to school, walk home for lunch, walk back to school. Real kick-back environment. And so I was a beach kid. So my dad at the time, we weren't living together. Now I'm not sure, I think he had a serious health issue, and they didn't want children. He had tuberculosis. And I think he got it in the Army during the Second World War. So anyway, I was living here with my grandparents, and it was a blessing because he was very ill and eventually passed away as a result of it, but I lived with my grandparents here. But anyway, back up a little bit. This was a vacation. It was a long vacation, a couple weeks as I recall. Nice trip on the Lure line to Hawaii, and then quite a bit of time there. But one of the adventures was I wanted to surf. Wanted to go down to the beach. So my dad took me down. At the time on Oahu, Waikiki, there was one hotel, and next door was a beach club, the Outrigger Canoe Club. And Duke was kind of the spokesman at the club. Beach guy, big, attractive, nice guy, and my dad introduced me to Duke. That's the highlight of my surf career. Shook hands with Duke Kahanamoku. And he got somebody to take me out on a board, and I caught some waves, introduced me to surfing, which became a lifetime passion for me. And my kids and my grandchildren, all surfers. This one is here as well. My relationship with the island never quit because my grandmother still owned the home here. So I was back and forth all the time. My dad passed away about that time, I think. And my grandmother moved back here. She had some relatives living with her here. Her sister and her nephew were taking care of the house, so to speak. Then grandmother moved back here, and then I would visit all the time. I'd come and stay. You know, I was back and forth, and my relationship with the island never quit. And then my grandmother passed away, and I inherited the house, so to speak. Actually, I bought the house from her. My wife and I moved into the house in the 70s sometime, and we lived here for quite a while with our kids and family and raised them, some of them here. And then we left, and then we came back and lived in the apartment for a while, and then we came back and lived in the house for a while. So we bounced around several times back on the island with a love affair of the island. And that essentially is my story.
Has it always been, Ron, the 106 Marine?
Yeah.
So that house has been in the family for
1918.
Well, that's got to be the longest, among the longest continuous ownership, over 100 years.
Yeah.
I mean, people weren't living here long before 1918. Collins didn't finish his work. It's right there behind you, only a few years before that. So one of the longest continuing family ownership homes. It's still, we could walk from here to there.
It's still here, yeah, and we love the house. It's currently rented. We've got some nice tenants in there. We just recently redid the apartment within the last couple of years. Nice tenant there, and then a good tenant downstairs, and so we just keep it that way, you know.
Any idea what grandmother bought it, right, originally?
Grandmother bought it originally back then.
For Eddie.
You want to know how much?
Of course.
$1,500.
Wow.
Okay, the house
would have been less maybe if it was one over and on the sand, because then there would have been the danger that it would be.
It'd be cheaper.
Yeah, right.
The house was when my first recollection, it was a shack. I might be exaggerating a little bit, but I even think in the washroom it had a sand floor. No garage, no apartment in the back, and in the front of it, and this is in one of the books that's been written. Some of the information is not correct, but it's the story. The front of the boat was a boat taken from a luxury yacht that had been remodeled during maybe the 20s, 30s, I'm not sure. Beautiful mahogany, curved windows, a cabin, not a cabin, but a luxury yacht of that era. They took it and put it on front of the house. It's never been really horribly modified inside. Still got the old brass doorknobs and skeleton keys and so forth. And we intend to keep it that way for as long as we possibly can.
Keep it in the family.
Well, I have a bunch of family, and I've got kids and grandchildren, so hopefully we can do that. And they're doing the underground utilities now and just jack the taxes up on me.
What is it about Balboa Island?
I can't really put it in words. I don't know. It's very emotional for me. My grandparents, my parents, and all the wonderful things that have been here. Currently, I'm a commercial fisherman, a lobster fisherman in Laguna, and I do have a boat that I keep up here on a mooring in Newport, nice sailboat that I got. So I'm still in love with the island. That's all I can tell you. And all their memories, I can remember them all. I remember the Beak family. I was a member of the Balboa Island Yacht Club. I don't know that it still exists, but I probably was a charter member at the time. This had to be 1947, 48, something like that. I'm not sure when, And then I remember the flight of the snowbirds and all the various things that happened here, and the ferry. We used to ride the ferry across. I think it was a nick, 5 cents, and free on the way back. Okay, because we would go to the fun zone, which we weren't supposed to go to as kids, but we did anyway, And that was so. I just can't tell you all the wonderful things,